am Halli Casser-Jayne, and welcome to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, a smart, witty, and timely podcast brought to you at a time when Americans are getting fed up with all the shouting and bickering in Washington, D.C. So I, Halli Casser-Jayne, and veteran White House correspondent Matthew Cooper are here to offer you an insightful, engaging journey into the world of politics, always with a smile and dialogue that snaps, crackles, and pops, and with our very special guests. Whether mulling over Melania Trump's latest fashion or Donald Trump's declining poll numbers, we strive to offer a different take on all things politics in our weekly conversations. So, pour yourselves a martini, grab a spot on your favorite sofa, and have a listen as we tackle it all and like to stir and sometimes shake things up. On this episode of the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, we begin with our weekly conversation and our take on this week's political news. In the second half hour, stay tuned for my interview with Congresswoman Jackie Speier. And oh, what a conversation we have. The author of the honest, raw, heartbreaking, sometimes funny, hope-filled new book, Undaunted, Surviving Jonestown, Summoning Courage, and Fighting Back, Congresswoman Speier is both inspiring and indomitable. Welcome to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, and we're just beginning. Here we go. Welcome back, both of us. We've been on holiday. I haven't spoken in a few weeks.
Yes.
Nice to have you here. Nice to
talk.
Yeah, catch up. I bet you there's a lot you got to tell me, but I guess you're not going to tell me on air, so we'll have to talk another time. But we're recording now for tomorrow's show, and the reason we usually record a little earlier, we waited, of course, to hear the president and the rebuttal from his Oval Office address from the leaders of Congress, the Democrats. And let's just go right into it. I want to hear what you first think about Trump, and then I'll tell you what I thought, and then we'll get into Nancy and Chuck, for Chuck and Nancy.
Well, I guess just to start with, as a TV spectacle, this is not his best format. I mean, I think Trump at a rally is a fairly formidable presence, but it looked somewhere like a little kid reading a book report and a hostage video. I mean, he was reading kind of fast, and reading teleprompters is more difficult than it seems.
Yeah. And
it's not an easy format, and if you don't know it or practice it, doesn't come naturally. And it clearly. It wasn't his strength, He didn't look like the guy at the boardroom of The Apprentice. He seemed someone who was just kind of reading fast to get through it. I thought the substance was notable in the sense that he kind of dropped the terrorism argument that the White House has been making lately about the border and focused instead on kind of a jumble of scary and mostly false crime statistics about immigration. And I got to say, I don't think he helped himself last night when people hear this. I don't think it was terribly effective. Now, that said, I don't think the Democrats did great either, and we can get into more of that. But those are my first impressions.
Okay.
What about you?
So I first of all, I disagree. I thought that he looked well. I thought he looked relaxed. I thought he did a better job at playing president than I've seen him do before.
Interesting.
Absolutely. That's the look. That's the game. That's the actor.
Right.
That's the reality star.
Sure.
The content was pathetic. First of all, you'll take note. I took note. He didn't even mention the wall until I used it at the end. He used the word wall, yeah. I think, once. He was barrier. He was all about the barrier, right. The barrier this, the barrier that.
The sort of iconic wall was
right.
So
right.
present, right.
And he went the scare route, and he lied one time, and that word crisis came up over and over and over again. Then scared us of all the horrible things that our immigrants are doing to us. By the way, why there was a picture of his mother and father behind him, and his mother came to the country illegally. I thought, didn't they realize that he would be back there.
Yeah, I thought he was going to make a reference to them.
Yeah, his mom,
I love immigrants.
Right.
Don't get me wrong.
But his mom came here as an illegal immigrant, so it really was rather bizarre. So a wife and a mother, both illegal immigrants when they came here. But his opening line, by the way, was African American and Hispanic, because that's how contrived the little thing was. So on delivery, I thought he did a great job. On substance, I thought it was the same old. But I thought it was, to people who don't listen like you and I thought
thought he helped himself.
I thought he helped himself. That's
interesting.
Okay. That's where I am. And I have tons and tons of notes that I can't read because I write like 1,000 times and because we don't have a lot of time.
Aunt Nancy and Uncle Chuck, how did they do?
Well, I thought they were boring as all get up. And I thought it was ineffective to have him stand there nodding while she spoke and then whatever. So I was very underimpressed with them until they got the last line. When they said the symbol of America should not be a wall, it's the Statue of Liberty. And that choked me up. I thought oddly he was the emotional one, and they were the ones who didn't deliver the emotion that I felt needed to be if you were trying to convince anybody to go on your side.
You thought Trump was emotional?
Yeah, I thought Trump.
Schumer. Trump.
I thought Trump was. I mean, Schumer might as well not have been there for the 2 seconds that he had or whatever. So I don't know that any of this moves anything, though. That's the thing, because that's what it's all about. I mean, when you look at the statistics right now and you see what he did it because he's losing the battle of the polls on this story right now, right? I think he's got a 51. It's 51% agree with that he's to blame for the shutdown. So look, let me ask you this. This whole thing started as a silly little thing in a race for the presidency that he never even thought that he was going to get, Matt. And now he's trying to turn it into something substantive.
Right. No question.
Right? Talk to me. I mean, it's silly.
Yeah, no, it's look, the idea that we need a huge wall of thousands of miles long is crazy. But even he's starting to back off. They're talking more about border security instead of a wall, steel slats instead of concrete.
Right.
I mean, I think there's got to be a solution to this eventually.
I'd like to know what that solution is, because and that's something we should talk about more than what happened tonight. But the fact of the matter is, Democrats cannot give in to him on this. It's the first go around since they took back the House. I think Democrats would go insane if they caved. So what do you think? I mean, how does this end?
Well, there's already a lot of fencing and wall up already, right? So, I mean, it doesn't seem impossible that maybe you have a few more miles of fencing and wall, and you maybe tighten up some places where it's right now it's a little looser. I mean, it seems like you could do it in a way that everyone could save face.
No, I don't see how you save face. But you have to open. I'm just telling you because I'm telling you where the Democrats are on this. This is not about Halli. This is not about you. But just from whatever.
Yeah.
I think Democrats will absolutely
are in a fight mood.
They're in a fight mood, and they don't want them to cave, and that is the problem here. And it's not about.
But it's not like there's no wall there now. I mean, there is barricade. There are barricades. There is fencing.
Sure, absolutely,
wall.
Absolutely.
So,
he wants $5.1 billion for a wall, and that's what he shut down the government over, the $5.1 billion, and that's where I don't think the Democrats can compromise.
Well, he's not going to get 5.1, but is he going to get 2?
I don't think he should get any because he hasn't spent what they gave him last time, which is really weird.
Well,
so what's he really want this money for? Is this going to be sent to Russia?
I mean, in a normal, I don't know, in a normal environment. I mean, right? The Republicans were all set to go out of town, right? Back in the end of the session, they had passed a continuing resolution that would allow the government to stay funded and kick this whole thing down the road. And the reason we're here with the shutdown is because Ann Coulter and everybody started attacking Trump.
Well, so now we have government by Ann Coulter and Rush Limbaugh? I don't think so. And I think that's part of the problem, by the way. How do you give in to that? I mean, they made a deal. I mean, nobody was more surprised than Mike Pence when Trump came back and said no after they voted the deal.
Right. But you might have to give up.
I know you like to compromise. You're a compromiser. You're a good guy.
I'm not. No, it's just it is the way our system is set up. It's nobody gets everything they want, and people have to get deals, and that's why the Republicans, that's why we still have Planned Parenthood funding. It's because the Republicans never got, even when they controlled Congress, the president prevailed and he got what he wanted, which was to keep, I'm talking about President Obama, of course. Right. He got to keep Planned Parenthood funding. I mean, sometimes presidents can get what they want, even when they don't have the Congress.
I agree with that mostly. I agree with that when you have presidents who are sane and don't pull the wool out from under everybody at the last minute because of Ann Coulter and Rush Limbaugh and to satisfy his 38%. He has no thoughts whatsoever about the rest of the American people. He plays to a party of 38%, more or less.
So how do you think this ends?
I think they should make him cry uncle. That might make him a president. I know that's really hard, but that might make him a president. If he loses one big round, then he's going to have to say to himself, uh-oh, what do I do now? And I don't think he's had that moment yet because everybody has capitulated to him because he's scary, because he is scary. And I don't agree with that. I think at some point, somebody has to take him down, truly take him down a peg or two. And I think the Republicans, for their own sake, it would do them good to do that to this man. They could gain a little of their dignity. And by the way, their votes when they come up for re-election. Otherwise, they go down the tubes with him. At some point, America, that's what I'm thinking. So I'm thinking you say to him tomorrow at the 3:00 meeting, guess what? This is what we do. And I think at the end of the day, and this is in my notes to tell you, there are a lot of breaks coming in people who are with him. The Republicans are breaking away. I mean, Murkowski today, we knew Susan Collins, there's one other. And I'll tell you who else broke away and said, I don't get this. Rick Scott was caught coming out of an elevator or going into an elevator. And he said, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We don't need to have the government shut down over this. So I think Republicans, Trump is trying to put money where it needs to go, right? So that food stamps don't get taken away. But he can't pay 800,000 workers. So it's going to start to hurt on Friday. And that's when I think he's going to have to come up and say, all right, we'll do this. We'll close the government, open the government again, and we'll set up a forum to sit down. We're going to hash all of this out. That's how I think you make him go to his knees once and for all. And then he may become presidential and understand he's dealing with a new sheriff in town.
You could be right. You could be right. I mean, it could definitely play out that way.
Is this a could be? Could be.
It's a could be. Could be. I don't know. We're in, as I say every week, we're in uncharted waters.
We are in uncharted waters, and there's no doubt about it. So I want to talk to you about something else that goes with this before we move on real quick, and that is this business with the networks choosing to run him against a lot of people screaming, why are you going to let him get up there and lie? And lie he did again tonight. No fact checking while he's lying. And you get into a conversation now about the press and the press enabling or the press being complicit. What did you think about that? His first Oval Office address, by the way, in 2 years.
Well, I thought there was, a case for not running it because, one, he does lie a lot, and second, there is an analogy with them having turned down Obama for an immigration address just a few years ago, saying it wasn't newsworthy enough. Now, Trump has the government shutdown as the background here, which does make it more newsworthy. But I definitely could see the case of not running it for them. And I definitely think they should have done more to fact check it in real time.
Yeah, I watched MSNBC. I don't know what you were watching.
I watched it on Fox the way God intended.
Now, you didn't expect them to fact check, did you? I thought MSNBC might, I wanted to go.
The Lord wanted us to watch the president. Trump on Fox, and I did. It was great. It segued right into Hannity, who said it was terrific.
Well, what did you expect? I mean, oh my God. Yeah, no, I'm glad that you watched Fox and I watched, but I thought NBC might fact check it on the Chiron
I thought in a way maybe he was stuffing all those facts right up the top to thwart any potential fact checking because he was throwing it so fast and furious up again.
Well, that's possible.
Maybe he was trying to flood the zone.
Who wrote that speech?
I assume I assume Stephen Miller.
Stephen Miller wrote that speech. I was rather shocked because everybody was expecting this big firebrand kind of, I thought it was
no national emergency.
Yeah, but well, that's another conversation because I think I've been reading up until right before we started recording that the president has been asking everybody about whether or not he can do that, and that he's holding out to do that after the meeting. I guess tomorrow is right. It to see whether he's going to play that. But most people are telling him don't go down that road. But there are a lot of Democrats, including my former Senator Manchin, saying, let's go that route. If you go that route, that gives an excuse because it's going to go to court for us to open up the government. So you're looking for a way out. That might be it.
Are there photos of you in West Virginia as a resident? I would like to see this. I still find it hard to believe.
On my farm, darling, on my farm.
That you were up there in the hollers.
I was in the hollers. I was not in the hollers. I was in the beautiful West.
You were on a lovely horse
I was on a lovely
just
horse
over
farm.
the Virginia line.
Exactly. Before I had my real big farm in Virginia. Yeah. No, so that's the thing. I mean, everybody has a really bad picture, but the eastern panhandle of West Virginia is out. The whole state is gorgeous.
You were in the Martinsburg.
I was in the Martinsburg. I was in Shepherdstown.
Yeah. You were in right. You were in horsey country.
I was in horsey country, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And
you were not in the mines.
No, darling, I was not in the mines, but I spent a lot of time running that state.
No, I love Virginia.
I love that state. But Manchin, he's in a peculiar position right now too. I'm sure that Bob Byrd, who was my mentor, as you know, would be is rolling in his grave right now, over what's happening in West Virginia. But I thought he had a really good idea. He was on this early this morning. He said, let Trump say, I'm going to declare a national emergency. It's going to the court. It opens up the government and everybody saves face and the story kind of goes away. That's an option.
Well,
that's not stupid.
Yeah, that's not stupid.
All right.
Well.
Yeah?
Yeah.
My turn? All right. Mitch McConnell. Let's talk the turtle. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Isn't he an interesting fellow? So he's been silent on all of this because he got screwed in it. He ran the vote and they got the vote passed and the president came back and did his little number. But today he did talk a little bit, right? Today he opened up a little mouth on in the Senate and did his little thing. But I think it's really interesting to watch that he is just a little ticked off about all of this. He hasn't done that before.
He didn't want this shutdown.
No, right.
And he gave the president a path out of it, and he doesn't want to be in this position. But at the same time, he's not going to, like all the Senate Republicans, he's not, with the exception of Collins Murkowski, he's not going to diss. He's not going to really diss Trump. So he's along for the ride too. Yeah,
I think this time he is along for the ride, but I don't know how much more of he's going to put up with. I guess, we're going on Hallie's instincts again. I'm starting to feel like the Republicans, not the Freedom Caucus, but the others are starting to get nervous and are, starting to,
well, they're going to hear it from chambers of commerce, and interest groups and business groups they're going to really start to hear it more than they have so far.
And it's going to be very, very interesting. Okay. So in the midst of all of that crazy, then story leaks. I'm going to tell you that I don't think that Manafort's attorneys did this by mistake. I think they did it on purpose. But what's her name? First there was Natalia Veselnitskaya. How's that?
Right.
I'm a half Russian. Was charged with seeking to thwart a Justice Department civil fraud investigation into money laundering. Oh, that word money laundering. We're going to hear more about that, I'm sure. That involved an influential Russian businessman and his investment firm. who was a lot closer to Putin than she wanted anyone to ever think. I think that's what the real basis of this is. And she's the same one who was the Russian lawyer who was in the 2016 Trump Tower meeting. What are your thoughts on this first story? Crazy.
Yeah. Well, look, it all comes back to Mueller. What does he have? When's he going to tell us what he has? And, I think we're still trying to put together the pieces of this. And I don't know. I mean, she always seemed like bad news, right? I mean, it never, from the beginning, from when they said, oh, she came to talk about adoption.
No, she was definitely bad news. But I think the thing is that, is there anybody who isn't connected to Putin? Is there anybody who, it's like so far, the only person who has no real connection that we are aware of publicly, back to the core of the story, where the umbilical cord, if you will, is between Trump and Putin, is Trump. Because every other person is, including his son and his son-in-law.
Yeah.
At some point, you have to say, wait a second. Okay, so let's push it, because I think we all figured out that she was not, she was bad form, if you will. And then the next one is the Constantine Manafort. Right? Tell this story, because I'm going to screw it up if I try and tell it. But basically, Paul Manafort, who's been in trouble, so their attorneys have to file a paper, and in it there's something was not redacted. Tell us.
Yeah, well, there's an acknowledgement that he shared campaign material with a Russian.
Not just any Russian.
That's my understanding.
Russian employee, Konstantin Kilmanak, who was really good friends with that other character, Oleg Deripaska, who was...
Right, so it's, which,
And lied.
Seems perfect.
Yeah, and didn't tell. Didn't want to reveal anything. Tell.
So, look, I mean, I've covered a lot of campaigns. This just doesn't happen in normal campaigns. They're not like... It's not like the Clinton campaign spent lots of time talking to the Costa Ricans, or the Reagan campaign spent a lot of time talking to the Pakistanis. This just normally, this kind of interplay with foreign governments doesn't happen, and that is why it is also so very odd. But it's not right. It's so very suspicious.
And Matt, not they weren't talking to North Korea. They weren't talking to Uganda. They weren't talking to, they were all talking
one country
to Russia. Yeah. What I started to say about this is we found out about this because they had to file papers, which they didn't file last night. They missed the deadline, and then today put this new thing in, and it was not redacted, this particular thing with his name and everything else. And I'm just going to go back to, this is a little silly detail, but funny what your mind remembers. When Manafort went to court a couple of months ago, and the judge said, wait, we'll put this off. His team were completely taken by surprise that Manafort had lied to Mueller. They were freaked out about it, and a lot of times you get into a case and the judge won't let you out of the case, and that happens behind the scenes. And I'm thinking, they want it out of the case, or they don't like their whatever, and you don't just mess up a filing like that, particularly one that didn't get in there on time. So I'm suspicious. I know me, and I know what you always say, could be. But it could be. Anyway, that was pretty crazy, because now that was not the only thing that then happened. There's this mystery grand jury subpoena thing going on, where the Supreme Court.
Right. Supreme Court decided not to get into it.
Yeah, baby. And we don't know who this is. And this has been going on for a few weeks. So there is far more to this story, darling, than meets the eye.
Yeah.
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 That's all you got to say. We're on.
No, look, having been on the end of a subpoena from a special counsel, I know.
How scary that can be, and how bizarre
that is. Had my case go all the way to the court.
Right.
Yeah, it's Okay, so it sounds like Mueller's going to, these guys are going to have to cough it up.
Yeah,
we'll find out.
And we're going to find out who it is. I look, this whole story, just for the fun of it, on a scale of 1 to 50, 50 being they got Trump. We could do it a 1 to 10 if that makes your life easier. Where are you?
How bad is it?
How bad is this? Are we,
10 is he's a Russian speaking agent who was born in, who was born in Vladivostok and trained his whole life for this.
And das Vidania.
0 is it's all been a terrible misunderstanding.
Yeah, where are we? What's your thought?
And he's the unluckiest guy ever. 6, 5, 6. I don't know. I don't know. Wow. You're a 9.
No, not a 9. Come on. I'm a more, me. I'm crazy, but I'm more reasonable. But I would give it a 7.
You're a 7?
I'm a 7.
Okay.
I'm a 7. Maybe even leaning 7 leaning to 8. But no, yeah. They're not there. In fact, you'd be happy to hear that, all the big guys, and I mean the big guys, Larry Tribe and, all these, they're all going, it's a done deal. And I said, wait a minute, we certainly have the connection with Manafort and, yada, yada, yada. But I do not see, and maybe even to the kid, maybe even to Junior, but I do not see yet anything that Trump knew. And we got to wait for that. So we're going to wait for that.
And you also have to ask, if you're the Russians, how much do you want Trump himself to know? You don't have to.
Why do it?
You have to own him, really?
Well, it was about getting him elected.
If there are other ways to manipulate him without having to.
Except that I don't think they can manipulate his son and not manipulate him. I think that's a big risk to take the son and son-in-law into your, bosom, if you will, and then not expect them to go back and talk to daddy about it.
Well, that's a fair bet.
Yeah, so that's the only reason I think that Trump had to know about it, because there's no way any of those kids would not have told daddy. And particularly
smart.
Yeah, I'm so smart. The young un.
You're right.
The young un, he was doing it. Everything he does is to please daddy. So I don't think that's true of the son-in-law, but the son. Yeah, if he had this, I got dirt on Hillary Clinton, daddy. Can I do something? That's more likely what happens.
Yeah.
There. Okay. We move on again. I want to talk Democrats. I want to talk the young'uns. Speaking of young'uns, coming into
By the way, I am just hoping Kimberly Guilfoyle writes a memoir at some point. I mean, Ted Newsom's ex-wife, Donald Trump's girlfriend. Maybe it's going to be his wife. I mean,
I've been very mean to her. She told an honest
memoir. It could be very interesting.
Well, that's what it's all about. But I think the bloom is off the rose there. She's been tweeting a little separately from him lately.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and not so much about him as party line.
I thought they were off hunting endangered species together.
Well, that was whatever. But she took a shot at. Who was it? It was racist. It was bizarrely racist. I should have brought that tweet. It came up because I would have told you, but I got very angry with her and I went, now listen, you La Cucaracha, don't you go talking about them. Look at you. She's Puerto Rican. You told me that, right? Anyway, yeah, she's a little full of herself.
But you thought she said something bigoted.
Oh boy, yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I have to go. I still have it somewhere, and I'll tell you what it is, and then maybe next week I'll talk about it. But yeah, she's whatever. Let's go back to the young'uns, and I want to talk about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and represented. She's not so young. Rashida. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. Tlaib. The Palestinian from Michigan.
Tlaib.
Okay, whatever the hell her name is. Both of them made a lot of noise this week. And trouble for Nancy. Believe it or not, I don't think that it was Ocasio-Cortez who's the problem. I do think she's going to have a problem with the Rashida Tlaib one. Ocasio-Cortez, of course, did a couple of things that were, what did she danced, and they found an old thing from college, which I thought was darling.
Video.
I love that.
Right. And her little congressional dance video.
Yes, I thought that was adorable and perfect and just the right answer.
She wore suffragette white on the floor for her.
And she called Trump a racist.
She had the 60 Minutes piece. Look, she's
not afraid. She's a natural.
She's a natural, and she's probably going to be a star on the party for years.
I think she will. I want her to stay young for a little while though, because she's so much fun to watch, and not get too serious. And then she did, what are her 70% tax,
rate? That we did have rates that high.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. I don't argue with her.
Albeit you were,
different times.
More loopholes. There were more loopholes. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But she I think she's adorable, and I think Nancy knows how to handle her and is enjoying her in her own little way.
And I don't think she's not really sticking it to Nancy at all. I mean, she went by that protest, but I think that
I agree with you. I think she's just doing her thing. You were listening to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. The Halli Casser-Jayne Show posts new podcasts Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern at hallicasserjayne.com, and it's available wherever you listen to your podcasts. Be sure to find me on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, on all your favorite apps. You can find the Halli Casser-Jayne Show on your Alexa device, too. Just say, The Halli Casser-Jayne Show. Oh, and come play with me on Twitter at The Halli CJ Show. On the other hand, I am going to bring up something unfortunate. And
I probably agree with you on this. Go ahead.
Okay, so this Rashida Tlaib, she's the first Palestinian in Congress. She doesn't wear the headpiece or anything like that, so she's American.
Hijab. No, but you wore a traditional Palestinian.
Right. And
festive.
Right. And she's stepped out of line there, and she's going after, the boycott, divest, and sanctions against Israel, the BDS, and she's made a lot of noise about that. And
her impeachment comment.
And go ahead. You do it, and then I'll come back. You talk. Impeach the mother. I wanted to see how you were going to do it.
Yeah. At a party, she said, "Hey, it's a podcast. It's not regulated. We can say
no, right."
No, she said at a party, we're going to impeach the motherfucker,
right?
And she got a lot of grief about it, and she got a lot of people defending her. Michelle Goldberg in the New York Times saying, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with this. Trump curses all the time. What's the big deal?" I think it was a big deal, because I think you have to at least pretend you're not gleeful about impeaching the president. You have to at least give a little hint that you're not,
I agree. I totally agree
about it.
Yeah. But she's going in there as not an American, but as a Palestinian, and that causes me great harm. I did not know this about her. Do you know that J Street dropped her?
I'm not sure.
Let me just say this. The J Street, which is the left-wing lobbying branch that people think is so far left, it's like over the whatever, had put some money behind her, and they pulled out. They dropped.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. And that's very telling as to how radical she might get. And, I'm very pro-Israel. That's the way it is. But I just thought she's crossing the line there. And that BDS thing.
Well, she made the dual loyalty. She seemed to make the old
she pulled a little anti-Semitic
the dual loyalty charge about people who were, pushing this anti-BDS law in the Senate. And I think there are, even for people who oppose the anti-Israel boycott, that they're not comfortable with these laws that seem to ban free speech. In any event, she's one to watch.
She's one to watch. I brought it up because of this. It is an issue in the Democratic Party. I get a lot of mail about this, Matt, about how do you vote Democratic? Look, they're turning into anti-Semites in that party. The whole left wing of that party is anti-Semites, anti-Israel. I'm going to throw that out. I don't know if we need to get into that today, but maybe we'll pick that subject up. That's why I brought it up, because I think there's a theme here that we need to address on this, unless you wanted to say something further on that subject.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's that sentiment out there. I mean, there's 220 something Democrats in the House, there's one who said that. I don't really think the Democratic Party is turned on Israel in a way that's serious. Now, the campus left has, kind of the academic left, where BDS is taking off and such. But, among your Steny Hoyers and your Jeff Merkleys and your, basic Democratic politicians, there's pro-Israel as ever, it seems to
But
me.
I think that left-wing part of the party it could prove dangerous, I'm telling you, I get it all the time.
Well, I totally understand.
So it's something to be talked about, and I think I posted somewhere, nip it in the bud, folks, because, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but, this could get very dangerous. We got to move on real quick because there's just two more things that I wanted to talk about. Well, there are tons of more things, but I wanted to go to. I wanted to talk about Mitt Romney coming in, doing an op-ed, going after Trump for his character, and staking out his ground. And he has been getting a very chilly unwelcome from his fellow Republicans in there. But I thought what he did for the first time in his life might have been brilliant. So I'm curious as to what you think.
Well, yeah. Well, I think the jury's out, right? Is he just going to be like Ben Sass? Is he going to just be troubled by the president's behavior and then vote for everything and not use his leverage to affect the president? It's harder to do now that it's not a 51-49 Senate. I mean, he doesn't have the leverage that Jeff Flake or Sass could have used more effectively. He's, we'll see what he does and what his game is here.
I think he got himself into a game where he is not. He can win either way. If they take out Trump, he's the hero, and if they don't take out Trump, he can still be a hero. He walked right down.
Look, and he's got.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and he's in one of the few states where this is a very politically good place for him from Utah, where there's a strong conservative anti-Trump streak. Evan McMullin having done well as an independent candidate in 2016 there. And, Mormons like Flake and Romney have been, more reluctant about supporting the president. So he's in good shape politically back home. He doesn't have to fear the way Corker did or these other guys. So
it'll be interesting to see. He could be a player.
And he's rich, and he's like, pushing 70? Is he 70 yet?
Boy, he looks great, though, doesn't he? He looks terrific.
Yeah.
You got to.
I just mean he's like at a stage in his life.
He doesn't care, right? Whether he runs or he doesn't run. I mean, he's got what he wants, and he can spend, the great years being the great senator.
He's in for 6 years, and, he's in till 2024.
But I think he wants his power, so let him get the power. Let him take the power. I think that's what he was operating on when he made that thing. I want to bring up Syria very quickly also before we say goodnight, because I think this is huge what's going on there. This is another place where I think Trump has got himself, he's like in land here. I mean, Mattis, leaves in a hurry because he's so ticked off. And John Bolton, John Bolton went out against Trump today.
I know, this is where we're, the old, me 6 weeks ago, oh my God, John Bolton's coming in, we're all going to die.
And then he surprised the hell out of us today.
Me today. Thank God John Bolton's
right?
there.
Go figure that one. I'm like shocked, but you never know, everything
it just keeps
moves.
It all gets crazy. Yeah.
It moves. It's like chess pieces. It all just moves, in a crazy thing. But keep your eyes, folks, on that story and on foreign policy and on Syria and Israel and all of that. And the price of gas is down, thank God. But I think it was a deal that Trump made with, what's his name? The initials BTS.
MBS.
MBS. Thank you. That was, we'll track back and we'll get the cartel to lower the price if you don't come after me because I did murder. That's my thoughts on that one. I'm running real quick because I know I got to watch because next we have on the show, folks, so stay with us, an interview with Representative Speier. And oh my God, what a story she has to tell!
I'll be listening.
I can't wait for you to hear her. She's really a trip of a woman. I also want to tell you that 1.5 million Florida felons today got their right to vote back, that could change the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that is why our new governor is moving center, because he's watching those 1.5 who probably mostly will vote Democratic in the next election. So that's why things are shifting in our wonderful state of Florida here. And the deficit spiked 41% in the first quarter of fiscal year. That just broke a little while ago. But here's where I want to end. I want to end on Mr. O'Rourke getting in his car and taking a ride. And I think he's going to be the Democratic nominee.
It's not a bad bet. Could be. No, I love the solo road trip. He's done it well so far, and with his pal, the Republican Congressman William Hurd, and I think this is smart for him to be doing it, and
I want to go with him. I want to go with him.
Well, I think you'll have plenty of chances to watch.
Yeah,
so you may not get to ride shotgun.
Oh. Okay. Well, I think I covered most of it. We didn't get to it all, but I think we did pretty good. Anything you wanted? Anything that was left for you to say other than could be?
No, I can't wait to hear you talk to Jackie Speier. It's going to be an interesting talk.
Yeah. I wish I had more time than I have, but it'll be good. Thank you, darling. Next week. See you.
All right. Thanks.
See you. Well. Bye.
Bye.
Jackie Speier is the U.S. Representative for California's 14th Congressional District. She is a recognized champion of women's rights, personal privacy, and consumer safety, as well as an avowed opponent of government inefficiency and waste. In 2012, she was named to Newsweek's list of 150 fearless women in the world. In November 2017, Congresswoman Speier co-authored the Me Too Congress Act to overhaul how sexual harassment and assault are reported and mediated on Capitol Hill, and in 2018 she was named one of Politico's 50 for those efforts. Speier was first elected in 2008. Her journey to the halls of Congress, quite a story. 40 years ago, she was left for dead during the Jonestown massacre while she was serving as a congressional legal advisor. She tells that remarkable tale in her new book, Undaunted. Speier's story is one of personal struggle, as a widow, as a mother, as an outspoken victim of gun violence, and service with an unwavering dedication to her constituents. Despite ongoing health struggles stemming from the shooting and personal tragedies, including the loss of her husband while she was pregnant with her second child, Undaunted, Speier continued to blaze an unparalleled path in regional and national politics. We begin our conversation talking about Jonestown. A little background. In November 1978, the 28-year-old Jackie Speier, a congressional legal advisor, was part of the fateful delegation to investigate cult leader Jim Jones in the People's Temple in Jonestown, Guyana. While helping victims to escape, the delegation was ambushed on the tarmac, and Speier was shot 5 times at point-blank range. Her injuries were near fatal, and after 22 hours in a cargo hold, she was miraculously rescued and brought home to the United States to embark on a long and harrowing recovery. 5 people died, including Congressman Ryan. 900 in the cult, including some 300 aged 17 and under, succumbed to a mass suicide, making the incident one of the largest mass deaths in American history. When in 2008 she was elected to Congress, she filled the seat of longtime mentor Leah Ryan, who was killed that day in Jonestown. Let's talk with Congresswoman Jackie Speier. Hello?
Hello.
There you are. Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Are you having fun?
Yeah. I'm having fun because you're my second to last interview for the day.
I hear you, darling. Truly, I do. Absolutely. Anyway, so nice to have you here, Congresswoman. Before we start, I have to tell you something interesting, which is our paths have crossed in an odd way. One of my very, very dearest friends was at Jonestown, a producer. I asked him if I could use his name. He said, I'd rather not. But I went through it with him and in that way, in spirit with you. What an odd thing to have the chance now to talk to you about all of that, and all the positive that's actually come out of that. Thank you for sharing. This is a remarkable book on Undaunted. I want to say this to you.
Oh, Thank you.
It's honest. It's raw.
How's your producer doing? Is he?
He still has flashbacks.
It's.
How about you?
It really has. Well, I don't have flashbacks, but it can't not impact your life. And those that were part of Jonestown, he had beaten them up emotionally and physically,
Sure.
and so it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, it's really been a long journey to watch this with him, and a lot of the people who are around that world besides. But I want to talk to you about this wonderful book, Undaunted, and I want to say to you that it's honest, it's raw, it's heartbreaking, it's inspiring, it's eye-opening, Congresswoman, funny, hopeful, and spiritual. That's where I want to go with you first, because, and I want to read something that you said, with the hindsight of 40 years, I see that my baptism by gunfire guided me into the life I was meant to live, one of public service, one that would ignite the courage to make my voice heard, and one that would carry with it a visceral appreciation for each new day. You know, it's often in life the worst packaging that gives us life's most remarkable gifts. Can you talk to me about that? I know you know that lesson.
Well, it's really true. It is the setbacks, it's the failures in our lives that truly empower us, truly educate us about how we have to fashion our path forward. And it has worked for me over and over again. I love to tell young people in particular that you are looking at a 3-time loser. This is what a 3-time loser looks like. And they look at me kind of shocked. But the truth is I lost for student body president in high school. I lost the first time I ran for Congress, and I lost for lieutenant governor of California. And yet each of those defeats presented to me an opportunity to succeed.
Talk to me about that. How did you process that so that became, I think that's where the lesson is for all of us that you can teach us. You know, some of us would just become the victims, right?
Right. Well, I had that choice. I mean, I remember after I had recovered from all of my gunshot wounds in Guyana, I was hospitalized for 2 months. At one point, they thought they were going to have to amputate my leg and or my arm. But once I came out of there, I spent the weekend, my first weekend at home, and I realized for the first time I wasn't in pain. Now, it wasn't that I wasn't in pain. I just wasn't thinking about the pain because I was other-directed. And it was that weekend that made me decide that I was going to run for the unexpired term of Congressman Ryan. On the very last day that you could take out papers, that Monday, I went to the county courthouse. My arm is still in a contraption because I couldn't use my fingers, and I signed my name to run for Congress. And it was a ill-fated 6-week campaign, but it taught me so much.
There's also the story of what happened in Jonestown, then losing your husband while pregnant in a car accident. Give me a break, right? Raising us as a single.
Really?
I mean, seriously. I mean, what if it's God who's up there, you're going, what the heck? You didn't hit me enough.
What did I do
What
wrong?
did I do wrong? That's it. And that's the thing that's so interesting to me, because that is, I think, a lot of people's first reaction. What did I do wrong? And you seem to have turned that into, well, how do I make it right?
That's true.
Yeah.
I actually, when my husband was killed, I couldn't have been at a worse time. I was so low, and my father had come to visit me because I was at bed rest because of the high-risk pregnancy. And I said, Dad, I don't know if I can go on. And he said, Jackie, what's wrong with you? Get over it. It's been 3 months. And it's so jarring. I thought, oh my God, I wouldn't talk to him for weeks. But I had to get over it. I had to move on. I had a 5.5-year-old and a baby on the way. And I had to somehow move forward. And so this book is about resilience. It's about how you can take something that gives you lemons and make lemonade out of it. And you know what? We can do it over and over and over again.
I like your mother. I have a crush on your father. Okay, that's it. Good-looking man he was. You're a thoughtful person, clearly. But I'm curious about something else, and that's emotions. And this is going to take us into the rest of this interview. You've achieved so much from such an early age, but what is the emotion that compels you. You know, we as women, we're not supposed to talk about our emotions. I think you've been so successful as a congresswoman because I think you wear your emotions sometimes on your sleeve. That makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Right? Talk to me about that.
Well, it's because I don't know any better. You know, I think it's because I can't be coy and I can't be clever, although sometimes I try to be.
No, you
but it all happens in my gut. I talk about this outrage meter that I carry around with me, and if it reaches a certain point, I have to do something about it. It's what keeps me going. It's what it's my soul. Because I think I was so lucky to survive, and I think I owe so much to the body politic, to people in general. And so when I see unfairness, when I see inequality, when I see discrimination, I feel compelled to do something about it.
And I'm going to say this metaphorically as well as literally. Those who are the messengers, which is who you and what you've become, they always want to shoot the messenger. I get that totally, right? And I saw a metaphor in that through your whole story, by the way. And I congratulate you for being able to go through that. So you wanted to make a difference. Your calling was to make a difference. Gun control. I got to go there with you. We can't crack this one. And now it's you.
Oh, yes, we can.
And Gabby,
yes,
we haven't yet, though.
We will.
We will. I know you're positive. That's great. But we've got Gabby and we've got Steve Scalise on the other side, and you, and there are others, by the way, in Congress who've been disabled by gunshots. What's the deal here? What do we have to do?
Well, I will say that I believe that the National Rifle Association has lost some of its power. I mean, 23 of the candidates that it supported in the last election lost. There is growing, I think, appeal to the youth of this country who recognize that, it's not right. They shouldn't be fearful going to school. They shouldn't be required to do active shooter drills instead of fire drills. And yet that's what's happened. We have smart technology now that can make sure that a gun is not discharged unless it's by the owner of the gun. Why do more children die of accidental gunshot wounds than law enforcement officers in the line of duty? We have a bill of goods that has been piled on by the NRA that is not accurate. You are protected to keep your gun by the Second Amendment, but you have a responsibility to make sure it's safe and can't get in the hands of someone else. And if you're a felon or you're a domestic violence misdemeanor or you've been judged to be mentally defective, you can't own a gun in this country. And yet, because of Internet purchases and gun show purchases, people get away with it. So we're going to clean that up this year.
I am so happy to hear that. And the good news is the NRA has lost a lot of money. I mean, I don't know how accurate reporting is, but they are losing a lot of money. No money, maybe no power. No power, goodbye and good luck. I really want to see this one cleaned up and fixed once and for all. I live in Florida. What a nightmare we have here on that subject. 116th Congress, let me change. A record number of women. 126, I think.
That's right.
Right?
And you know what's great about this, Halli, is the fact that there are 34 new women, 33 are Democrats, 22 of them have never run for public office before.
That's exciting.
So there's an avenue for anyone, male or female, who wants to run for office but doesn't feel that they've gone through the process. There is no process anymore. If you have the fire in the belly, if you can communicate your views to people and they are convinced by it, if you are authentic, you can run and you can be successful.
So are you encouraged that it's only 23.6%? How do you like that mixed one there? Are you?
Well, it's a whole lot better than 19%.
Or
those
17,
numbers are
yeah.
going to increase.
Right.
And I was just reading today that the top, the companies in this country that are part of the military-industrial complex, all of these countries, Lockheed, Boeing, all of them are now headed by women. So we are coming of age on so many levels that it's very exciting to see what's going to happen.
There's something interesting, though, when I was thinking about talking to you, and I knew that I wanted to talk to you about the Me Too movement, which you've been so much in the forefront of. But you know what I really want to talk to you about, because I think everybody kind of gets that story, and that's the fact that it's female members of Congress who are talking about this, number one. And I'm going to talk to you about women's issues. And is that sexist? Does it get to a point where we have to say, you know what? Congresswoman Speier also serves on the Committee on Armed Services. Oh my gosh. And on the Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. And yet, I want to go back to you on the women's movement. Do you get that irony?
So here's two things. First, my wingman on the Me Too Congress Act was not a woman. It was Bradley Byrne, a conservative Republican from Alabama. Who would have thunk? But together, we were able to push that legislation through. He, in particular, had the kind of currency in his Republican caucus because he's an employment law lawyer, and he knows of what he speaks, and he did it in the private sector for so many years. So it's not just women. In this case, it really was Bradley Byrne and Jackie Speier. Secondly, when I first got elected to the state legislature, my campaign consultant at the time says, you can't keep doing women's issues. You gotta spread out. And I thought, well, okay, I would start doing that. Then I thought, wait a minute. If I don't do it, who's going to do it? What man is going to be concerned that contraceptives are covered on a prescription drug benefit? What man is going to want to make sure that you can get orders for stay-away orders on the weekend when courts are not open? So whatever the issue is, what man is going to be concerned about child support enforcement? It's something that I had an obligation to be engaged in because it dealt with women and children.
It's still boys' town out there, isn't it, though? And we're still fighting that. And because of people like you, I think we'll actually have a chance to make it something different, something much better than it has been. That's for sure. Are you excited about the new Congress?
I certainly am.
And what do you see as, for you, the number one thing? And by the way, are you going to run for president? Is that what this book is about? Let me throw that out.
No, it's not. A number of people ask me that. No, I'm not running for president, although...
Why not?
There's so many, I guess,
I mean, why not, darling? I mean, you as well as anybody. And I think you actually have a better face than most. So there you go. You could do it. But what do you think is the number one issue for you going forward now?
So it's not just one issue. I would say the Equal Rights Amendment needs to be enshrined in the Constitution. Mm-hmm. It is not, and so discrimination based on sex is still technically legal in this country. If you've been discriminated against, not only do you have to show you were discriminated against, you have to show that it was intentional. I'm also concerned in the military about a doctrine called the Ferris Doctrine. It was a decision in the 1940s that basically said a service member incidental to their service cannot sue the federal government. So we've had many service members who were victims of malpractice, victims of sexual assault, all of whom have not been able to find justice, and I want to see that change.
I leave you on this. This is a book about survival. Do we survive Donald Trump?
Without a doubt, we survived Donald Trump. Our country is great, and our country has survived bad leadership before, and we will do it again. What's great about this new Congress is that there's now a check on executive power, which Congress in the last 2 years has abrogated its responsibilities to put a check on the executive. Our forefathers designed this country with 3 equal branches of government with checks and balances so that we would not have a king, we would not have an autocrat, and so we are more assured of not having that moving forward.
You are a gift to us all. Thank you so much.
Great to be with you, Halli.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye now.
I've been speaking with Congresswoman Jackie Speier. She has written a remarkable new book, Undaunted, Surviving Jonestown, Summoning Courage, and Fighting Back. For more information and to connect with Congresswoman Speier, visit her website at jackiespeier.org. and follow her on Twitter, where her handle is Jackie Speier. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. The Halli Casser-Jayne Show is a production of Resec, LLC. Be sure to tune in to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show at hallicasserjayne.com or listen on your favorite app. New podcasts are posted Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern.